do you guys believe that Destiny is following the proper protocol for platforming?
I think it's following the proper protocol when it suits him.
Wasn't it the second day that he tried to dismantle my argument by saying that I was coping? Wasn't that in the second day?
This is the exact reason why the term "stay out of black folks' business" exists.
So today we're going to be having a conversation. Recently I had a conversation with a divester that had been on Destiny's platform. I only became aware that the divester was on Destiny's platform because someone came into my stream and said, "Hey, Fanatiq, you really need to go to Destiny's stream like right now." I also got a text message from a brother, a low tier god, who told me, "Hey, Destiny really is having something on a stream. You need to go there or whatever." So then I went to the stream because of those two messages. And upon that, I discovered this divester saying some incredibly anti-black things, engaged in a conversation with the person whom I believe was named Forethought, and he was having a hard time pushing back against what seemed like the most anti-black takes I'd ever heard, or among them. So with that being said, I engaged in a conversation with this person, and later on, I got a lot of messages from people who were really appreciative of me for having had the conversation. However, I also got a significant amount of text messages from people that were really upset that the conversation was happening on this platform to begin with, and felt like Destiny was doing something incredibly problematic. I understand the way people are feeling. I read through the messages. I understood where they were coming from, and I wanted to discuss this. However, obviously black people aren't a monolith. And also, I don't think that I'm in a position to be able to say, well, I'm speaking for all black folks. So I decided if we're going to be discussing something to this magnitude, I felt like I should have other people here to be part of the conversation as well. So I reached out to a few people who had been reaching out to me. Some of these people reached out to me and DM'd me about like the toxicity of Destiny, specifically how antagonistic he is towards black progress. And so I decided to have this conversation to discuss what it is that he's doing and whether or not it's actually problematic and so on and so forth. So I have today, what is it? STV Feely, Miles, Zovia, and we might have one additional guest later on. None of them will be on camera, but we're going to go ahead and discuss this issue. So let me go ahead and pop this out. Okay, so let's go ahead and get this started. So number one, I feel like first off, how can I just ask the three of you guys, how do you guys feel about the way that conversation went with the divester, as far as my conversation with her?
Honestly, I think it went kind of the way that she kind of played the way that she wanted to sound, and it kind of went left when she had any sort of pushback on her.
Okay.
Oh, you wrecked her. The first question out of your mouth just blew her ideology out the water, and then she had to pivot. And then every time you blew her out the water, she had to pivot. And then because she was allowed to act however she wanted, she didn't have to act with any she didn't have to comport herself in any type of way other than be hyper emotional and aggressive. So
sure. I could agree with that. No disagreement so far. Philly, how do you feel? Maybe his mic isn't working.
Sorry about that. I was very appreciative of what transpired when you actually called in. I was very disappointed up until that point with the people he brought in. I mean, no disrespect to Forethought or the guy from No Jumper or anything, but they kind of when they came in, it didn't do it for me. And when you actually came in with some actual intelligent arguments against what she was saying, it made because those are the things that I would have said. So I was just grateful that you were able to come on and say some of those things.
Okay.
Because if not, then she would have just ran away with that whole stream, and it just would have been her shitting on black men with no pushback. Because Destiny obviously wasn't equipped to do it.
Okay. I think he's equipped, and I think he chose not to, but we will get into that, honestly. I think, and because of his choice not to, I think is where a lot of the problem is. But we can obviously, it's fine. I'm not trying to disagree with you there. What I will say is, I got a lot of comments in the video where people were like really appreciative. That was like the predominant response that I got from this interaction in my comments and from people who have reached out to me has been appreciative that I was able to push back and that I was willing to. But then the other thing that I feel like is also like probably the second most predominant thing was almost a disappointment that the conversation even happened, specifically on Destiny's platform, and what others felt like was him using this to like kind of mask his own views or to like put forward a narrative that didn't make sense. So I guess the first question that we got to get into is, do you believe, and this is to anyone, do you guys believe that Destiny is following the proper protocol for platforming?
No, honestly, I think he's following the proper protocol when it suits him. The issues that I see I guess within different people, is when he platforms people, the amount of pushback he gives only suits the issues in which he can actually have a good argument, depending on how exciting it is. It's the same thing that happened with Fuentes, and the same thing happened with her. So if it can make a good enough conversation so people can involve themselves into the chat, he will have little things and leeway he'll give them in order for them to fight, so that way the people in chat can just like, why aren't you saying anything? So that way he can come in as a big knight in shining armor later in order to have these impacts on the conversation he wants to push forward.
Interesting. I honestly, I don't have a problem with the platforming. I never was a big, trying to put rules on people for who they can and can't talk to. Now, responsible platforming, that's something I am like, I haven't fully made up my mind on that yet, because if he were to set that up in the right way, that he could have pulled that off better, I think. And when I say he wasn't equipped to handle that conversation, obviously I don't mean he wasn't intellectually equipped. Like Destiny, even not knowing his subject matter can push back on some of these things. Like, just to keep it brief, what I meant when I said he wasn't equipped was like he didn't know enough about what this girl was talking about. Like, he's not in these black spaces like that she was specifically talking about. Now, he might have went on Fresh and Fit, he might have interacted with a couple people, I have Abba and all that, but he's not deep into these communities to have these kind of conversations, I don't think.
Okay. I think the information that she was talking about, I think, was able to be talked about, and but I would say my problem with this specific conversation is that in the past, we've had conversation in which we've discussed responsible platforming. Prime Kai had hosted a debate quite a while ago. I mean, a panel quite a while ago, where that was like the central discussion. And I think we had all kind of walked away with that. At least we had all kind of agreed around the idea that platforming is good and responsible and actually beneficial, as long as the person platforming the person is adequate to push back against whatever those talking points are. Because if the narrative is never contended with, then that means that the talking points get out and then they're not contended with. And so then people begin to accept that. And it seems like now you're just giving an audience and a platform to a person, right? Whereas if you bring a person on and you are adequately equipped to dismantle the arguments that they're giving, you actually do harm to their intentions and you help dissuade some of their audience. But that's only if there's responsible pushback. Otherwise, you are just amplifying the voice of someone who is harmful. That was the takeaway that it felt like we all had agreed on that from that platform. So when Destiny brings this person onto his platform, I feel like he's not following the proper protocols for platforming, because he specifically said multiple times he didn't feel comfortable pushing back from her. One, because sometimes he said he didn't know enough, or two, he felt like because she's talking about her in group, because he's not a black person, then it doesn't feel right for him to really push back on it. So then that means that he's not personally equipped when he should be personally responsible for the direction that those things go. So to be a little bit more, just to close it out, there was the very first Fanatiq panel I had was on vaccines, and other people were like saying, oh yeah, you could be spreading misinformation, or you could be platforming bad people, and so on and so forth. But the presence of Destiny in that situation, whom people really look up to as like the supporter of all of that, and the most go-to person or whatever, that's the way a lot of people view this thing, then allowed me to be able to say, there was adequate pushback for any people who were like particularly given to the vax side. And I feel like the anti-vaxxers would easily be like, well, at least they had a voice because they were on this platform and I made sure that everybody was at least able to speak. So that was responsible. As long as we're going to have adequate pushback. I would say that the people that preceded me weren't adequate pushback, and then Destiny himself was an adequate pushback. And if Destiny himself isn't going to give the pushback, there's no way for him to guarantee adequate pushback.
And then, so
Yeah.
for me, it's like we watch Destiny. He's the leader of this space. Like, there's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. Most people, most things, most ideas that generate in this space come from conversation he has. And we've seen him plenty of times. Oh, whoa, 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 whoa. I don't agree with that. Let's move on from that. Let's step away from that. Whoa, 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 whoa. Let's not do this here. We can't do that. Don't bring this up. Let's not go there. We got none of that. And then
Well,
it doesn't take it. It's just like, okay, black man comment number 1. Oh, black man number 2. Black man 3. Oh, we're really going in on black man. Black man 4. Black man 5. And it's like, wait a minute. Now these are starting to compile, and you're still there's no breaks. There's no pause. There's okay. I guess I see where you're coming from. It's and it would these aren't her. It would be different if she was positing it neutral, positing fairly, actually presenting these ideas in a way where they should be accepted at face value. But her animosity was so clear that it's just like, oh, palpable. It's laughable that anybody can take away from that first section of the conversation that Destiny, oh, well, he's right. He's white. Maybe he shouldn't say anything. No. Like, that, the way I see it, you either agree with the statement she's making, despite how obviously bigoted it is, or you just can't see that. I don't know. You either agree or you're ignorant. Like, I can't see a way in between where you don't know enough to see how bigoted that is.
Yeah, and just to be complete, I'm sorry, somebody else was about to speak. Go ahead.
No, I wasn't. Go ahead. I was just saying I agree, but go ahead.
Yeah, well, so just to be a little bit, charitable to Destiny, he felt like he was out of his depth, right? Because from my understanding, he brought her on not really knowing what to expect, and that's believable because I don't know him, and every time I've come on his stream, there was no like conversation about like what was allowed, what was not allowed, what we were going to talk about. So from on one hand, I understand like what happened, but on the other hand, like the aftermath of that gives me a different a view of that. But like in the heat of the moment, I don't think he felt well versed enough in anything that she was saying to even
this is just
begin
absolutely
to push
asinine.
back.
He obviously feels well versed enough to understand what the implications of systemic oppression are that would lead to the outcomes that she was decrying and literally trying to just paint on the backs of black men. He knows about what systemic oppression is. He knows what that is. And if it was an abject racist white person making those statements, he's done adequate pushback before. When he can make the distinction between police, broken windows policing, and like the actual fall of violent crime and gun violence and the inadequacies of stop and frisk, I understand that he knows what this lady was pushing, what this lady was saying was unfounded. When I was giving the arguments about the economic implications surrounding education, he understood that thing. Furthermore, she was giving him studies, and when she gave him studies to read, there was a point where he read through the study and then realized that it was absolutely a waste of time, and then his chat was asking him about it, and he responded to them, "It's effing useless." So he understood what she was saying was BS and that it was unsupported, and that the data that she was giving actually didn't have anything to do with it. Did he voice that in that moment? Of course not. Did he voice it ever? Of course not. Instead, he left himself neutral in a situation where she was asking him to be the arbiter. You can read Destiny. me. You read these studies. You tell me if they're accurate. And he chose not to do so. Furthermore, the grenades that he threw in were all entirely supportive of her positions. So he's very much aware of these things. We've seen him make the arguments for systemic oppression before. He just didn't want to make it against this person. And it seems like he was supporting her beliefs by steelmanning her arguments for her.
The 2 grenades he did.
Right.
He did 2 grenades.
I don't. Yeah, he did. So
And
what
one more
I guess,
thing, he brought her back on his platform a second day where he was completely aware of what she was going to be talking about. So then at this point, all of that excuse is out of the window, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well,
I watched that one too.
Yes, but like, all right. So just trying to put myself in his shoes. Everything you said is correct. Like it's his platform. He knows like how to counter these arguments. He knows, he does know that what she was saying, like, because the problem was he kept like tiptoeing around her, like, well, what you're saying is kind of racist. It's coming off a little racist. Like, he didn't want to go hard on her and what his excuse that he gave was he didn't want her to run away because he knew that the slightest little bit of pushback, she was going to just leave, and that's not what he wanted, because obviously he was having a great stream and it was, great. Like, everybody was entertained and all that
Right
stuff,
there. Can we pause?
Well, sure.
He's having a great stream in which a person is saying insanely vile anti-black racist rhetoric, and he's not pushing back, but he's still having a great stream. Is that problematic or not?
That's exactly what I was talking about.
I got you. Let him answer the question, please.
Yes, that is problematic. And, the aftermath of that, we saw. But, like, what I'm saying is, so she was coming and saying things like, well, what about black men, leaving the relationship, or the divorce rate and all that. Now, while you were giving pushback, what I'm saying when I say he's not well versed enough in this, like, he doesn't know why black men and women are breaking up. Like, he's not in these conversations. He doesn't know the first thing about black relationships.
But you don't need to know you don't go. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say, like, that's why I was so grateful that you came on, because, like, he. What can he say to that? Like, is he going to tell her, like, she's wrong if he doesn't know that the reason?
Okay.
Like, I'm just bringing up one specific example.
So let's excuse the first day then. So let's excuse the first day because he brought her on a second day. So then he clearly did problematically platform her a second time, right?
Yes. Absolutely. The second time was. Yes, no, I agree with you 100%. I was specifically speaking about the first day when he didn't know, like, what she was going to say, what to expect.
I'm going to say
second time he brought on,
for sure. Yeah. I think we can all I'm positive that Destiny has enough emotional IQ to recognize that black men that marriages breaking up between black men or relationships ending and terminating between black men and black women there's no possible way that all of the onus could be on black men. Do you think he needs to be particularly well versed in relationships to know that, or do you think that's something that he should be able to glean from just typical human interaction, that relationships end and terminate for various reasons, and to put all that onus on black men is absolutely asinine?
Well, yeah, because I was in a conversation with you when he had this same conversation within the black community. To act like he don't know is insane, because he went on an entire tirade about how black people can say and do things that normally other races can't do, and how they should actually contend with the problems that they have in the community, and therefore the changes that they want to see, they have to be the changes they want other people to see. So the issue I was seeming to, I guess, have with him is that isn't the problem, because when she came on the second time, she was vindicated even more, because everything that he was saying to bolster her arguments was given all of the endorphins that she loved, especially when he was talking about all of the stuff that she was putting off was almost fallacious. Remember when she was saying that it doesn't really matter because the rate of high school graduates were so low, and then you said no, it's pretty high. And then you gave the statistics on that, and you was like, well, so you're going to move the goalpost again? The further you push her on the situation, the further away she runs away from it. And then when she ran away to the corner, she just started talking over you and yelling at you to the point where it wasn't even a conversation anymore. It was just vitriol aimed at black men. And it wasn't even to a point where it made sense. It was just saying, okay, well, it's all your fault. It's like, wait, it takes two to tango here.
Absolutely.
And then the grenades.
On the second day, you're saying when she brought that up, how did that pertain to the second day?
Well, it was because when they were talking, it wasn't really a conversation about analyzing her thoughts on the situation to do with black people, because it wasn't black people, it was black men. Black men is the issue. Black men is the fault of all of this. She made it seem as though that since we want to be in charge, therefore we have to take all the responsibility when things go bad. And that wasn't the actual argument. The argument was, when things are bad, it is your fault because you are supposed to be the leader. Not figuring out why it broke down in the first place. It didn't matter why it broke down. It doesn't matter if you're banging Pookie or whatever, and you get a crappy outcome from that. It's still the black man's fault.
Okay, and
So
what does
when
that
an
have to do with
issue come up,
Destiny?
has everything to do with Destiny, because the pushback he would give on everything else involving the situation with a fallacious argument wasn't even presented. It was just like, okay, she's going to run with this argument, and there was no pushback because his understanding about statistics is thrown out of the window, especially when he's talking about just dynamics between relationships. It doesn't actually have to just be black people. So you're going to put everything on one gender and not actually have any thoughts about why that doesn't make any sense?
Yeah, I mean, I think, like I said, that seems like you're in agreement with what I'm saying. That he obviously should have enough intelligence to recognize that you can't put all that onus on any one person.
Yeah, I'll disagree. I believe the second day is exactly how the first day should have gone, because she didn't get free reign to just spew her bigotry. You know, there were so many more people in there after the fact, and because we knew that if, because now since it's on, he put the onus on the black people in his community to ensure that she didn't have the onus to just be bigoted. So
Yeah, holy shit! I was begging to get in there the second day. I was DMing him. I was DMing Fanatiq. Yeah, everybody was biting at the chomp to get in there that second day.
So, but let me ask you this then: Do you think that it's responsible, unless the only way that would be responsible? Not, it's not a question. The only way that the second day becomes like optimal is if he has enough confidence to ensure that the people that he's getting up to challenge her are capable, and it doesn't seem like he was doing that, did he?
He wasn't, because he wasn't confident in anybody, I don't think, except Abba. And Abba just wanted to meme the whole time and fucking play moderator and shit and like make
The
jokes
entire time.
back her fucking point up. Yeah, it was like, why you have two. All right, so she's talking about black men, but she's a Canadian, and you bring in another Canadian dude to like talk about black issues when we all live in the United States and our problems here are unique to anywhere else in the world. It didn't make much sense to me to the way that he decided to kind of just run the second day was better on the pushback. I will agree with you, but like I said, I don't think he had enough confidence in anybody to properly push back against her.
Okay, wasn't it the second day that he specifically said that he basically tried to dismantle my arguments by saying that I was coping? Wasn't that in the second day?
Oh,
that was
yeah.
the second day.
Okay,
Yeah,
so how could the second day be better platforming if on that day he's telling her that all of the pushback that she got from the previous day was all bad faith or all coping, and therefore her arguments were valid?
Because
he was
Abba
doing his
wasn't
own pushback the second day.
Was that not a portion of his perspective on the second day?
Yeah, it was.
So you're saying that was an outlier position?
Now I gotta go rewatch that.
He has a beef with you personally. I don't know what it is. I tried to ask you about this the first time we ever talked, but it's something with you.
Sure.
Personally.
So if he has a beef with me personally, and during using that beef, he then basically validates an anti-black, vile, racist person on his channel, and tries to disarm all of the defenses that I put up in that scenario. How is that good?
Oh, all right. So I think here's
that's
what
just
it
him
is.
being him. Like,
real quick.
So even if it's him being even if it's him being him, how is that good? Is the question.
Well, he's gonna do that.
How is that good? I get that he's gonna do that. How is that good?
It's not. It's not.
Nobody's saying it's good.
No, you did say it's good because you guys are all saying the statement.
Oh, no.
You guys have all made the statement that the second day was better. All of you did.
It was better.
No, I actually went against it.
Oh, I'm sorry. Maybe Miles, you didn't. Okay, sorry. Then I'm wrong. Zovia and STV, you guys both said that the second day was better. Did you not?
Okay.
In terms of pushback from him, yes.
But if the pushback from him is invalidated, okay, maybe I'm okay. So it sounds to me like you're saying his pushback was good, but also within that pushback from him, he dismantled all of the arguments that I gave the previous day, which you said were good. So then that means now that that's validating to her, is it not?
I'm not giving Destiny the person in any of these interactions any type of positive credit.
So then that
I
would mean
was
his
saying
platforming is still bad then if he's going to be depending on
I
other
was
people.
saying, yeah, okay. I was saying that the opportunity for like so I missed the timeline for the first day. I don't know if you were there before Forethought and the No Jumper dude got on. Were you?
No.
Me? Oh,
Okay.
yeah. I
So
was there the whole time.
okay, so for him to, it's like, oh, here's black person number one. Here's another black person. And then as soon as you show up in the chat, because I actually got to see, that's the part where I joined in, like the chat just flooded. Oh, put Fanatic in there. And then he couldn't just ignore that. He actually got you in there. What I'm saying is, as far as day two, it's like, you know, more people were ready to be in there contesting her ideas. Whereas
Were they
the
adequate?
first
Did they adequately push back against her ideas?
Oh, because Fanatic, you have to understand
I
that
can't answer that question.
Wait,
Abba
you
just
said
wanted to.
no?
But
Was that a
I can
no?
No,
I
I
can't
think it was a
answer that.
no.
I didn't see
So then if you can't
the
answer that
first day.
question, then how can you say that it's better?
It's better because there was no free reign to validate her ideas by having Forethought in there, having a no jumper dude before you go up. You know,
I
those two, like him putting forth those two, not knowing whether they could contest her ideas is problematic. But he knows that Tree of Logic. He knows that he knows that Abba.
I wasn't even
Even though
scheduled to
Abba,
be there on the second day. I literally forced my way in just because I had privileges on his Discord.
yeah,
Thanks
you,
for
So
that, by the way.
so then how did he know that I was going to push back? He didn't know I was going to push back.
eh,
What do you mean?
All right.
What does that
Fanatic.
mean?
I think Fanatic. I
What is
think
that? Okay, let's move
I know where
past
this
it.
disconnect's coming in. No. All right. I'm sorry. If you want to stay there, I'm sorry. Go
No,
ahead.
it's fine. No,
no,
go ahead.
yeah,
Just
go ahead, go ahead.
there's nothing else to say there. Like, that's the answer.
Person who
Well,
was trying to push back the most, his beef wasn't exactly with her. She had a beef with him, so he just wanted to focus on getting why she hated him so much. So his main thing was trying to get her to say why you got so much vitriol, why you got so much smoke for me. So that was the main focus that was happening with Abba. I think the only crux of that whole conversation was trying for her side to validate what she was saying and at the same time go after Abba. But Abba didn't want all of that. He was just trying to say, what is your problem with me? And then he went off, and then she went off to say, well, you call that chick fat. And then he spent some time on that. And then he went on the fact to talk about, well, my side is that black men need to take responsibility entirely for the situations of why the black family is down bad. And he was kind of agreeing with her. So that didn't really have any movement at all. It was just like, okay, she got validated. And that's what I was saying from the beginning. It got validated in the beginning until Fanatic came on for the first one, and it got validated again on the second one. So, and that's what I was saying. It just seemed as though that the issue is seemed to be like all of his tenacity went to hell because he wanted that fight for me, guys, so I can get content bullshit. And that's what I've been seeing lately.
So
That's
I
why
guess
those two
that
grenades were so bad.
thank you. So then that brings us up to the next point that we had. Would this qualify as blaxploitation?
Yes.
For everybody who doesn't
Abso-fucking-lutely.
understand, for everyone who doesn't understand what the phrase blaxploitation is, where it comes from, I believe it was in the '60s, or maybe I believe it was in the '60s.
70s.
Probably '60s and '70s, maybe '70s. Fine. There was a point, so we'll say in the '70s. I really thought it was, but yeah, whatever. In the '70s, there was this era where a bunch of white filmmakers started making these movies supposedly from the black perspective, where the characters were primarily black, and they were supposed to be dealing with like black issues, whatever. But the writers, the producers, and all the proceeds pretty much went to white people. But they were selling black films to black people, but white people were writing it and controlling it. And they call that the blaxploitation era. And some of these films had some really problematic themes in it. The Shaft one seemed like it was pretty decent overall, although there was a bunch of demeaning to Shaft, but he was obviously outsmarting the white guys. But then, of course, the Foxy Brown movie, she literally got to a scene where she was just getting ran through. She got raped by this white hick dude. It was crazy as freak. So it just those movies were really, really toxic, because what it was white people using black stories and or black fiction, and selling it to black audiences, but using it for their own profit. And so, in the same sense, it would seem what I would call the reason why I would say that there's an analogy. It would be if Destiny is using this black audience, I mean, using these black. This black fighting and these black issues for his audience, for his own personal gain. That's what I'm getting at. Does anyone feel like it isn't that, or what do you guys think?
No, I think it 100% is, because he did it before. It's like whenever, like I said, back when you and Joe Lewis, and remember that black panel that he was in on, and he was talking about the N-word and all that shit. He would like purposely meme in order to derail the conversation that you were seriously talking about. He did the same thing here when you were having a conversation with her. He would throw in an unnecessary grenade to bolster her conversation when it literally didn't do that. It just made the conversation harder for you to contend with when he knew it was bullshit. So he can sit back and laugh and play that bullshit game that he was playing, because it was a whole lot easier for him to farm content. So yeah, absolutely he was doing it. And you can tell by the way he would smile and laugh whenever you guys got into a heated argument, when she just would not be quiet when every time she tried to shut you off, because she felt like she was getting just destroyed with logic. So the basis of him doing that twice was to get the argument more heated up, so more people can be in the chat, you rah 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 and that shit up to a point where it's like you got two black people screaming and hollering at each other, so that way they can be seen as this entertainment.
Sure. Philly?
I would. I think it's more analogous to like a minstrel show.
Sure.
Because
but the question is it black exploitation?
No, I think just strictly because of the audience. That's why I would compare it more to like a minstrel show he was trying to put on. It seemed like because he has a white audience, and that's like who was you know, for the most part, bringing in that's who was absorbing the content, who was consuming the content.
Is he exploiting blackness for his own personal gain? Is it black exploitation?
I don't think he was. No, I don't think he was exploiting. I mean, these are real things. Like this isn't some made up. This wasn't like a made up conversation. You know what I mean? Like, now, do I think he's really invested in these things? No. But I think he has a large enough platform to where like these conversations can be had without it being exploitation.
Was it exploitative the way that he was allowing her to spew the vitriol, knowing that it would? That's crazy. I'm not going to argue it with you, Zovia.
I mean, you can ask the same question a different way, but my answer is
okay.
no.
It's okay.
I don't think it was
your answer. That's why I'm just moving on. Zovia.
It was blatantly black exploitation, because on the biggest space in this realm, instead of, hey, here are my positions on black issues, here's how I feel about it, how do you feel about it? No, it's here.
Well, we know his position on black issues.
I'm a platform this bigot. Let her inflame my black audience and my white audience, because surprisingly, his white audience wasn't going for her either. And now it's, I'm white, I can't take a position on it, but I'm the biggest platform on here. I got plenty of black people that are willing to get in here. Get in here, black people. Stand up for yourselves. Pull your pants up in my community.
Isn't that what you would want, though?
But that's not how it
That's
came
not the
off.
question. Number one, that's not the question we're asking about whether or not he's handling the situation right once he's already started the exploitation. The question was whether or not the exploitation is actually there. But I don't really want to argue like really heavily. So
Wait, why not? Why?
Because
I think this is a very like substantial point we can kind of.
But it can't be, bro. It can't be substantial if the issue wasn't based on what you say it is. Because the fallacious arguments on every other situation, he is very, very much a stickler about misinformation. Why did that come up at all whenever he was having that misinformation come up constantly? That's all he says on his stream. Misinformation is so much worse than anything he's ever put on his content. Whenever there's a conversation he's having, like it could be JS, it could be Fuentes, it doesn't matter who it is. Misinformation is the one thing he nips in the bud. Throughout all of that misinformation, he didn't pipe up enough like he always does when there's misinformation happening. So yeah.
I think this is a myth that is perpetrated about Destiny, that he's this like super rational, always looking for the truth, would never let misinformation come across his
Is
platform.
that not how he tries to present himself?
Sure, that's how he tries to present himself,
Do you
but we
feel
all
like
have eyes and
do you
ears.
feel like he was true to form how he tries to present himself in this scenario?
No, but I've seen
So
him
then
do
that's
this
our
on plenty
issue.
of
There you
right,
go.
but this behavior is not new. This is not something
Is
new
it
for
consistent
Destiny.
with what he normally does?
Uh, listen, he just came
Oh,
off a
okay
whole
then.
thing with
Wait, answer the
no.
question.
There
Is
you
it
go.
is
Wait,
it
I'm sorry. Did I answer the question? What do you mean? Okay, then was that an answer?
well, I'm sorry, can you give an answer?
Okay.
Yes.
Was it
Yeah.
consistent?
What yeah, well, he's answering.
So he just came off a whole thing with Nick Fuentes where there was all this contention about whether he was pushing back hard enough or whether he was allowing a Nazi to come on his platform and just spew all this, and we saw how he handled that, and he's handling this the exact same way. So is this consistent for Destiny? Yes, this is
Okay.
what he does.
Well, look, I'm not
He
gonna.
is about content. He's not seriously invested in anything he talks about unless we're talking about fucking music or Factorio. He doesn't give a fuck about any of these issues, white, black. If we're talking about the word Gusano, maybe he gives a fuck, but like
Oh, cracker.
I don't cracker, yeah, like
Why are you
he
guys
cares about
just
those things.
yeah?
I'm sorry. Oh, my fault.
Oh,
My fault.
we
You
can't.
can't blow it up, bro.
No, I sincerely apologize. I
You
sincerely
can't blow it
apologize.
up like that, bro. Holy
Why?
shit.
Why?
Oh,
But
It's my fault for
it's
expecting
oh
people
my
to think
god.
that way. Okay, so then the next question was there was a
I'm not on. I'm like
it's
rarely ever
fine.
on
I
Twitch.
got
I
you. It's okay.
honestly
We're gonna move past
apologize.
it. We're gonna move past it. There was the final talking point was about the contradiction between the statements gatekeeping white people is bad, right? Because he's always saying whenever we start talking about black issues or black things, and like we've like talked about, like systemic oppression and things like that, some people will say that he's not in a place to actually discuss these issues because he's not black, and he's always felt like and always voiced that that was problematic. That get kind of gatekeeping, as I've he said it's cringe. So then, if that type of gatekeeping is cringe, do you think there's a contradiction? Because he says that everyone should be able to talk about these issues as long as you're informed and so on and so forth. Then do you think there's a contradiction between when he's always said gatekeeping is cringe and the statement, I can't push back because I'm white and I don't know these issues personally?
100% yes. He had a conversation with Lav talking about how gatekeeping is fine whenever you want to make sure that the content that you're trying to preserve is something that you want to maintain. Like he was saying that people who call themselves non-binary and they may be crazy and whatever, but we can't let those people change the way that you think and hijack so that way you can preserve that thing. But now when it's convenient, he can just take away responsibility from himself in order to, I guess, stop gatekeeping the thing that he actually thinks he should maintain in order to subterfuge his own thought process when it comes down to misinformation. I think it's insane. I think that's his way of getting away with the stuff that he can actually, hold himself to task for and let the shit hit the fan whenever something comes out that he doesn't want to have to deal with.
Okay, STV.
I don't disagree. So I think the big, I guess, i- incongruence I'm having in my head, the thing I can't iron out here is like I said, people, there's this expectation placed on Destiny that he is the super consistent person. Um, Nothing that he said really surprised me. Like I remember I first noticed this when with Trihex with that whole situation in the N-word debate. And then there was like another he had this BLM activist on who was kind of trying to educate him on some of the BLM issues, and all he wanted to use was anecdotes and well, this one time I was buying a house, they were talking about like the housing discrimination and like the lady uh, that was trying to sell her house. The black lady was trying to sell her house, and she felt like she wasn't getting a fair price, and she switched out all the pictures with a white family and had them come in and sell the house and got like, you know, 500,000 more on the house or something. And his first like his first reaction to that was, "No, that can't be true, because the one time I went to buy a house, I talked to 4 or 5 different real estate agents, and I just couldn't imagine this being the case." He didn't read one thing. He didn't look up one. He might have looked up the article, read like one sentence, and then spewed off on this whole diatribe about how this can't be possibly true. And then the whole thing with the redlining thing with Fanatiq. Fanatiq was 100% right with the historical um prevalence and importance and impact that redlining had, and Destiny just was not willing to have that conversation. So I think this is completely consistent with his treatment of Black people, the treatment of our issues. He doesn't take it seriously, and he never has. So, like, am I surprised? Is he being consistent? I don't know, but I'm not. I'm not surprised.
So to answer the question, is there a
I'm
contradiction?
sorry. One more time.
I'll go.
Wait, no.
Yes.
Okay, Sylvia, yeah.
Yeah. So this is absolutely inconsistent with anything he engages with. And this is the exact reason why the term stay out of Black folks' business exists. Because you get these people that do this nonsense, and it turns into this whole mess of these issues where now you got a bigot being validated. You got reason. One of his own moderators came out looking really stupid in that situation. You put your own community through that because you choose not to engage. It's like, oh, well, I'm white. It's like the nigga moment's happening, and it's like, oh, well, this is what happens when the nigga moment happens to white people. And he's like, the white man's puffing up, and it's like, wait a minute, I'm white. He just laughs and walks away. That's exactly what Destiny did, and you can't say that he's consistent with it when if you take trans issues. He doesn't play around with trans issues. He doesn't let people get dead named. He doesn't let any type of aggressions or microaggressions happen, even though trans women got him banned off of Twitch. They dramatically reduced his income for a while. They got him banned on Twitter. And he doesn't have any type of vitriol towards that community. But when Black men are attacked, oh, I can see where you're coming from. Well, that's hard to argue against. I don't know how to do that. And half the time, it's like, I don't know. Maybe you have a different viewing of him, but a lot of him agreeing with her just came off of him, to me, as
Agreeing
him
with her
because he knows better.
I think he really agrees with her. I think he really agrees with some of the things that she's saying. I don't think this is like.
I don't think he does. Look, I don't like a lot of the shit he says, but I don't think he agrees with her. Sure. Guy is far too smart to believe the shit that she is saying, all right? Because he's argued against it specifically. The stuff that she was saying, he was saying that most of the stuff that would happen in the home is based on a lot of the divorce rate is due to finance issues. How the hell can you have a large percentages of marriages fail and have it just be one gender's issue? That makes no damn sense. For the fact that act just went on without any pushback is insane. And the little pushback he had was so just paltry. It seemed as though that he was like, he wanted this to happen, or he was not even focused because the game was too good, or he just wanted to play it up for the people who were watching him because the content was so fantastic. How often do you get a psychotic, self-hating Black woman to come on and blame every single problem that the Black community is dealing with on one freaking gender? How often do you have that? It was gold for him, so he milked it.
Absolutely.
I'm not here to go ahead.
I don't disagree with you at all on that situation. And I think, to be honest with you, I feel like even when I was having the conversation with that person and I was successfully pushing back against everything that she was saying, and I was still remaining calm despite all of that. And I feel like even Abba, when he joined that situation, Abba joined for the content farm in the same way. Mm-hmm. And I feel like he wasn't really contributing to the conversation, which is why I decided to exit. Because like we're still going back and forth, and he's just like kind of jumping in, laughing, coughing, doing all those kinds of things, really trying to be more inflammatory and instigating more so than actually contributing to the conversation. I'm a big fan of Abba. I like a lot of his content, but I think in that situation, I think there was obvious that he was really just there to meme and have a good time. I didn't listen to his conversation with her, but I'll have to, because later on, I guess he said, yeah, you called me one of the good ones. So it seemed like, and from what I'm hearing from the messages and the DMs that I'm getting, it seemed like Abba was somewhat agreeing with her and somewhat validating some of her positions. I'm not sure if that actually happened. Those are the DMs that I've gotten. I'll have to watch the conversation for myself to be able to see that. But what I can say is Destiny clearly is contradicting himself on countless times. If people start saying you can't talk about things, I mean, I don't have to look very far. I'm pretty sure any person who is familiar with Destiny's content can validate that Destiny has made it very consistently clear that to gatekeep discussions to only the people that are directly affected or impacted is cringe. So then to be in this situation and constantly cite that you can't talk about it because it's about an in group and you're not relevant, then that right there is an obvious contradiction. I really didn't, it's crazy to me that he's like trying to pretend that he couldn't push back there. I do think that some of those things are his positions, and not just because of the fact of the grenades he was throwing, but in my response to the grenades and in previous conversations that I've had with him, in which I've said when I've given things that should have dismantled those grenades, he like his face while those things were happening, like it was almost like a wait, what? Like no, not no, what? How? Like it was more like he was disagreeing with me as I was giving my pushback for a lot of those situations. Furthermore, if this person is already incredibly inflammatory and I'm successfully dismantling them, why would you want to throw grenades? The only reason why you would be wanting to throw grenades is to be exploitative, to gain more from your content.
Yeah.
So,
And remember what he did? He actually put the stupid he put that the black style hat on with the fucking glasses in order to make it more of a fucking joke.
oh
When he
my
had to
gosh.
what the
Yeah.
fuck was that?
And change
What
the
the hell
title.
was that?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm like, what? You
Then
knew what you were doing.
absolutely him renaming his stream Destiny's stream for jobs and freedom, which was like obviously
Son of
playing
a
the March on
bitch.
Washington for jobs and freedom.
Oh
Then like him
shit.
wearing the Kufi hat, right?
Yeah.
He was
Yeah,
specifically wearing that, like that I'm sorry, that was like the meme that they put on him, and then he made that like the whatever the thumbnail for his
Thumbnail.
stream. I think again, obviously, like him like saying that basically the arguments I was giving against some of the things she was saying were cope, and validating her was obviously problematic. I think he obviously knew how toxic she was, and he was bringing people on specifically for that reason. And I think obviously he knows it's been a content thing. And then furthermore, there's a DM that I got where Destiny very clearly, one, used the hard R and specifically said that he was going to be using something specifically to exploit content. I'm going to find that really quick. Let me see. Copy link. I'm going to share that. Can I just put it like this?
You know what he's gonna do, right? He's gonna say this is the Destiny support group. Because he doesn't like criticism.
Yeah,
he says he likes criticism.
Go ahead and read that. I put it in my stream chat, and you tell me if he can say that that's the Destiny support group. What it starts off, and he says, "Next time I bring on black people, guys, we'll just have another convo about that Kendrick concert where that white woman came on stage and rapped the N-word, and then we can talk for 2 hours about whether or not there's a difference between." And then he says types out hard R, and then he says, "and nigga," Pepe laugh. Then he says, "That's great content. Holy crap! I can't wait for our next stream of black people. Do you think when white people rap the N-word, is it racist, Mr. Abba?" And then he says, "I didn't type the N-word. I copy pasted it from an old conversation with Abba, where I called him the N-word, but still." So in this situation, it seems like Destiny knows what he's doing, and he's like, that right there is like an indication. Now you can say, "Oh, I'm just being sarcastic and tongue in cheek." You can say that all you want to. It's obvious that he knew that the content from this woman would be explosive. He already saw a conversation with her, with the saint and the sinner. So it's not like he was completely unfamiliar with what her positions were. He knew the type of vitriol she had. He knew what she was going to be saying before she came to this platform, and he knew that it would be that it would blow up, and he brought her anyway because he knew it would be good for his content.
Yeah, I talked to him earlier today, and I brought up a few of these things. And basically, with that, what you just said, like I asked him, like, how did you come across this girl? And he was like, "Oh, I had no idea she was in the divestment community. I had saw she was hitting me up on Discord because she saw my conversation, talking about she saw me on Fresh and Fit, and that's how he came into contact with her. Um, and and I brought up the screenshot you were just talking about." Fanatiq, and his answer to that was it came off very disingenuous. He said, "Yeah, no, I left a Reddit post explaining, all this on my Reddit. And it's talking about this post specifically that you just read out." He was like, "Yeah, no, it was just I didn't." I guess his point was that like this was all, like you said, tongue in cheek, like, he was just memeing. Sometimes he memes and all that
Demon the hard
stuff.
R, huh? He can't help himself. So I think,
Of
look,
course not.
here's the deal.
But we already knew that though, because he's been said his position on the N word privately.
Right. So then
it wasn't private, so it got leaked
right.
on
So
his
then I don't even understand
fucking
how that
own subreddit.
Absolutely. So
No, but my point is like we. So this isn't surprising for me with Destiny. Like, I know what I'm getting with Destiny.
But it didn't
like,
have to be surprising for us to point out how absolutely absurd it is and for us to be offended by it. Because I'm not saying that it's
right.
surprising. I'm not saying that I'm shocked. I'm saying that it's wrong, it's harmful, and that it needs to stop.
Yeah, you can't be getting used to something that's bad and expect it to be something that's going to stay that way.
Right.
You have to push back against it for it to change. And the fact that he thinks he's okay with it, or that it's all right to keep going, that's the issue we're trying to talk about. Because otherwise, he's just going to keep on doing it and think that it's okay to just exploit the situation and make it like a freaking show when it should be talked about seriously. The whole thing about his conversations online was to talk about ideas seriously if they impact a certain group or everybody for that matter. But he just made a show out of it.
And
So
memes his way
that's a
through it.
problem. Yeah, so did Abba too, by the way. That dude wasn't fucking helping at all. That guy was doing clown shit for a while, bro.
For sure. So there's a thing. I'm gonna read a few of the comments that I got on the YouTube, so you guys can understand what motivated me to have this, like to even start this panel. So one person said, Winatic, it's very frustrating being a Black Destiny viewer. I know he's trying, and I'm happy with the recent uptick in Black people in his sphere, but now we're getting the crazies and the weirdest ones, and he doesn't know how to argue back against them. And the weird narrative that other races never got help is the weirdest ahistorical thing I've ever heard, and you're the first and only person to accurately point that out. Good debate. Another person says, he did the best he could in the situation, but I feel like he should have cut the combo off way sooner because he's not equipped to debate a divester, and it's just pure chance luck that a few Black people were around that were willing to come on. That was a point that I was making earlier. He did not know that I was going to be there. It just so happened to be chance that I left my OBS open and someone reached out on the OBS. And so when I saw that, and I was talking to my fiance at the time, and I said, hey, I'm sorry, I got to check this out really quick. And I checked it out, and I was like, okay, yeah, we're going to watch the movie later. And then I went and I engaged in that conversation. It was just chance I hadn't already started that movie yet. And if I wasn't there in that conversation, nobody else adequately pushed back. So it was absolutely chance. Then someone else made the statement, in case it's not obvious, Destiny has huge anti-Black sentiments, forcing his community to push back against a bigot. He's choosing the platform as the grossest form of Black exploitation I've seen in the streaming world, and there's no excuse for it. I don't know how anyone could argue against that. This is the same person that told Fanatiq you should be grateful when pushed back against him misrepresenting Black issues 2 months ago. Every time he played the I'm white card while trying to steelman her arguments, he was just reinforcing the harm he was doing. And then here's the last one that I'll read, even though there are several more. Well done. That girl was so dang bitter. I don't know why Steven was so charitable to her. She deserved none of that. And all of those things, every last one of those things that I read were absolutely true. And so my goal was to reach out to people to see if the other people felt the same and just get some other opinions. Something happens a lot of times when you go live where people kind of want to be extra charitable, and I don't know what the hell that is. But ultimately, my reason for having this panel...
It's not that.
Okay.
It's not that.
Oh,
it's
sure.
not that. It's just that I don't expect more from Des. Like, I don't. It's just like
you literally said the words, "I want to be charitable."
Right. Well, yeah. Well, I do want to be charitable because, like, I'm not in this man's head. I'm not here to psychoanalyze him. Like, I just know what to expect from him. Like,
okay.
I'm not like. We can hypothesize about, yes, he did this like just out of pure for content's sake. He did this because he didn't know what she was going to say. He did know what she was going to say. These are really his true feelings, that he was just using her as a proxy to spread his his racism. I can't say that one way or the other. All I know is what I see, what I expect, what I've known Destiny to be and do, and this is just another episode of the Destiny show.
All right, that's a good defense.
I don't think he's racist, bro. I don't think he's racist.
I didn't say that he's racist. What I'm saying.
No, I said I don't.
I hear you.
I don't think he's racist.
I don't know that
I don't want
anybody
people
here
to think
posited
that.
I don't think anybody here posited that he was racist. I think what we were saying was what he was doing was harmful. What I'll say is, The reason why I wanted to include other people in this conversation was because it does feel like it would be unfair of me to just have my own position on this thing and just say exactly what I think without trying also to include other voices. And for that reason, I think it's beneficial that STV Philly is able to voice his position in opposition, because in that way it helps at least for other people to other ideas to be present and so on and so forth. What I'll say is I personally think Destiny has been rather harmful, and on countless occasions I've tried to have reasonable conversations with him, and I've endured nonsense but straw mans. I think his community tried to label me as a racist, and because he first labeled me as a racist, and it wasn't until he walked it back that many of them started like giving away with that. But that element is still there of plenty of people referring to me as racist because Destiny championed that, and he laughed about it when I had him in the studio, and he specifically said, "Yeah, I know I did that." So he knows what he's doing. He's completely aware of how ridiculous his community is, which is why he's so on edge all the time, because he knows if he's ever wrong about anything, then his community will go ham. But in any case, plenty of times I've tried to actually correct him about some of these issues and some of his misinformation, and he has been completely unwilling to actually entertain any sound argument on it. Whether I have facts, figures, data, science, evidence, none of that matters to him. He just starts to meme and try to disquiet me with all of his tools. I had reached out to him and I told him I've been working on a whole piece specifically dedicated to those interactions, and I think parts of this conversation were frustrating for me. But what I will do is I will go ahead and re-listen to those conversations, and then I will come back with my own notes for an independent video. I'm pretty sure because it's a 4-person conversation and I'm sort of driving it, that I'm pretty sure STV Philly probably doesn't, and Zovia and Miles probably have more that they could say on this subject. If anybody wants to reach out to them, they have their own platforms, and they're probably available in Discord. You can talk to them there. Maybe I'll encourage Zovia to go ahead and make a Reddit post, because I think he wrote down a lot of his thoughts in preparation for this. So you can explore their ideas, and I'll definitely put out a video where I go into my own deep thoughts on this, and it doesn't have to be contended with in that kind of an environment. Of course, if anybody feels like they disagree with me or agree with me and wants to talk to me, I'm always open to DM or to have a conversation whenever I'm streaming. Do you guys have any final words that you guys would like to give?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you for not putting up my message that I sent to you, because mine was a little bit more colorful for that lady, or what she was doing. I'm not gonna lie, but yeah, this was a fantastic thing that you did. I understand that having more than a few people in here to have their thoughts and your thoughts and trying to juggle it up with other people is kind of hard. So I'll just say this. I think Destiny knows damn well what he's doing, and the issues that I have with him doing it is contradictory to what he actually believes himself. Is that he chose this time in order to get the bag without actually having to try. So it only hurt us and not actually helped any situation as far as, content with any sort of education involved with it. So I think maybe when he goes forward, he can see this and actually understand that if you're going to be as hard pressed to have people understand why you're doing a certain thing, don't slack on it and expect people not to notice.
Okay. Sylvia?
Uh,
Go ahead, Philip.
Thank you. I guess my final thoughts would be, it's kind of funny, Fanatic. Like when we first got in contact, I had some like harsh criticisms of Destiny, and you were like, "Oh well, like you want to come on stream and voice your opinions to him." And so I've had a lot of criticisms of the man for a long time. Um, I know what to expect from his content. I don't go in there with any illusions that he's going to be this bastion of black positivity. He's anytime he's ever engaged with the black community, save for Abba and maybe like one like Tree or a few other people fucking are relevant. Anytime he's engaged with anybody in the black community that had any differing opinions from him, he pushed back on them. So the reason I think that he agrees with this woman is exactly what I said. He agrees with her, and he was using her. Yeah, like I can't say he was using her as a proxy, but I do think that the reason he was giving you so much pushback, Fanatic, and letting some of the things that you guys discussed tonight, why he was letting a lot of that ride, is because he ultimately does agree with her. Yeah, and I'll just end it there. But yeah,
Sylvia?
All right, so normally I just put Destiny on, go to sleep. I don't not terribly interested in him, but his platform is valuable. And having a valuable platform, I shouldn't, as a black man, feel like I just got a giant shit taken on me because you want to platform a bigot and it still man her and it sit there and laugh, still man laugh, still man laugh. The more braces she got, the more happier he got. And for him or his audience to come back away, oh, he's white. What he's supposed to do? Uh, do what you would do for the Jews. Do what you would do for the LGBT community. Do what you do for your own people when you get called out in that similar fashion and melt down when people say words towards you or about you that you don't like. It's just what do we call that? It's called consistency. This a modicum of consistency for black issues would be greatly appreciated. We're not mad because oh you had her on and she said some things. You know, you did what you were supposed to do. No, you didn't do what you're supposed to do. You didn't act in a way that was respectful towards the group she was attacking, and that's why all of these people are coming out in support of Fanatic and making posts on Reddit, making themselves known with this community. It's like, hey, his Reddit is blowing up with black people that most of these people wouldn't have had anything to say if he was doing what he's supposed to do. And I guess let's leave it at that.
All right. Appreciate you guys all for being here. Um, Yeah, just look out for more. I don't, man. It's crazy because this has been a lot of work. I'm telling you, I messaged him and told him I'm 16 hours in already on just collecting all of these things, like just the history of these interactions because it has been incessantly toxic, which is crazy. Because anyone that's been aware of me, I've always had a certain layer of respect for Destiny, despite the ways that he's been disrespectful on countless occasions. There's something that I've always like respected about him, and I think I guess I can kind of be blinded by the idea that every now and then, like when I did my panel, he supported the panel, in my opinion, by being on it because he's obviously a huge draw. I think those kinds of things have always made me soft on him, while at the same time, when I'm trying to have direct conversations because something that I think is particularly harmful, because I genuinely care about these black issues, and when he starts being dismissive of that kind of thing, when I am being as respectful as I can, it really does sour that the type of respect I had for him, and I think that he's absolutely being toxic to the black community, and enough of his viewers have reached out to me to say so, which is what guided my efforts to make me want to even do this panel, and I will try my best to better address you guys as an individual when I have more time. These people didn't have a lot of time to prepare as well, so that is what that is. Appreciate you guys all. So I'm going to go ahead and get back to work and start trying to compile this information. That's that.